Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGod. In today's video we're going to be focusing on Apex Legends, which is a brand new free-to-play game that is available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, as well as PC. And there's a bunch of tips in this video. Some will be a little bit more obvious, but there's plenty of other ones that maybe you didn't realize when you're playing through yourself. So I highly recommend staying through all the way through the end. If there are any tips that I missed that you think could be very helpful, make sure you do comment down below because others will find that helpful as well. So the first set of Apex Legends tips we'll go ahead and talk about are all related to the movement mechanics. So the first mechanic you're really going to want to understand is how to land faster and further. For most people, the close drops are going to be relatively easy to do. You just kind of aim directly for them and you go straight there. But obviously when you go a little bit further into stretch destination, you're going to want to be the first one to land. So here's a diagram of what that mechanic should look like. And I think a lot of players are starting to get the hang of it, but here's the best diagram that I actually found on Twitter. So on the one on the right, you can see that you have to speed up all the way until about 145 by dropping directly down. And then you go ahead and glide until your speed drops until about 130 to 135. And then it's pretty much a combination of rinse and repeat until you hit your destination. One other amazing concept that this game added is that there's actually no fall damage. So no matter how high you fall from, you will not die from that fall damage. They've also made it so that you can't damage your teammates. And that goes pretty much for everything. Your specials, shooting at them, using your throwables. Pretty much there's no way for you to hurt your teammates. Another tip if you want to navigate the map a little bit faster is to actually put your weapon away. When it's put away, you move significantly faster. And another way to move faster is to use the terrain to your advantage. And there's two different ways you can do this. You can actually slide down slopes and you'll move very, very fast. There's also a lot of buildings you could just climb up and mantle. If you look up and hold the jump button while you're next to the wall, you'll climb up a considerable height. You'll kind of get used to it, trial and error. You're going to learn how to do this more effectively and which buildings you can climb up on. So the next category of Apex Legends tips is going to be centered around inventory management. And I wouldn't worry too much about this part initially when you just land on the ground and start just looting. I would really worry about this after you've had your initial looting phase and then you're navigating around the map, so that you're not carrying around excess items. There are two types of heals, small and large, two types of things to repair your shield, small and large. There's also a Phoenix type of heal, which will completely repair your shields as well as bring your health all the way back up to 100%. Then there's also the ultimate accelerant, which is probably the most slept on item in the game. This item can only be used from the inventory, so you'll have to actually select in your inventory, select the item and use it, and it will increase your ultimate depending on which level you get. And this could be very useful if you use it with the lifeline character, but you can use it with other characters as well. That one's just mostly the ideal one, and it really comes down to timing and situation. And the next item that you're really going to want to stay on the lookout when it comes to inventory management is the backpack. Obviously, the better the backpack, the higher the rating, the more inventory space you'll actually have, which in my opinion is very important. So when you look in your inventory, they're going to highlight certain items that probably cannot be used in that moment. Maybe if you pick up a different weapon, you'll be able to attach it later on. I would highly recommend dropping these attachments in favor of healing items or throwables. Obviously, the main exception to this is going to be those attachments that go to your go-to weapons. And as you play more often, you're going to find out which ones those are. So the next Apex Legends tip is to use the best weapons in the game. Fortunately, there's a ton of weapons to choose from that are actually pretty decent and very usable. There is a very small list, which I'll cover as well, of the weapons you should avoid. So first off, there actually are a couple gold weapons that are in the game that are only available in supply drops, or those little loot drops that fall from the sky. There's a 50 caliber sniper rifle, but if you're not a sniper main and you're not really good with snipers, it might be a little bit harder for you to use because you have to be very accurate. But the second one, which is the Mastiff, is a shotgun. Very easy to use, very strong damage profile, will take out multiple enemies. So the only real downside about these weapons is you cannot find ammo anywhere around the map. They do not drop floor ammo. They have specialized ammo that you get when you grab the weapon, and that is all you have. So some other very good weapons that are kind of fitting in as the meta is the Wingman, the R301 rifle, the Peacekeeper shotgun, the Spitfire LMG, the G7, the Hemlock, the R99, the EVA 8 auto shotgun. There's a lot of weapons to choose from. There's probably more that I didn't just list, so it's a lot easier just to name the weapons that you should completely avoid. So there's a pistol called the P2020 and the Mozambique shotgun. These are complete garbage. You might be able to get a kill here and there if someone's low health, but in all honesty, you might just be better off meleeing the enemy. And one other thing I will point out is in case you're incredibly lucky, you can actually find a lot of these these weapons on the floor in a gold form, and once you pick it up, pretty much all the attachments will be gold, so it'll be kind of like the perfect weapon. The downside with these weapons is you cannot disassemble or take apart any of the attachments to put them on another weapon. So while I'm on the topic of attachments, one of the best features this game has is that you can actually just pick up a weapon off the ground, and if you already have attachments for that weapon, it'll automatically be equipped to them. If your weapon currently has attachments that will fit it, it'll automatically swap them over. So all in all, you don't really have to do much inventory management with those new attachments, which definitely accelerates that looting phase when you're picking up weapons, moving on to the next attachment, picking up a new weapon. It just makes everything seamless, which is very nice for new people to the game, as well as people that are very experienced and want to play very aggressive. So the next set of Apex Legends tips will focus around the health mechanic, and the goal is to make it as simple as possible. So pretty much every player has a base health of 100. So that means right when you land and people don't have armor or helmets, you should be able to do 100 damage, and that will actually finish them off. And the shields pretty much works like Fortnite, but not everyone is guaranteed 200 shields. How it'll work is if you have a white shield, you're going to get 2 additional blocks. Each one will be worth 25, so you'll have a total of 150 health if you have the white armor. When you have the blue armor, you're going to get that third little bar, so you'll have 175, and then with purple and gold, you will have a total of 200 damage that you're able to absorb. So one side tip when it comes to healing is to make sure that you repair your armor before you actually heal yourself. And I mainly mean to prioritize it, because if you've ever healed yourself with a syringe, you know how long that takes to just repairing those shields. And the other component when it comes to the health and armor is the helmet. And pretty much all the helmets do is mitigate some of the damage. If you have a white helmet, you'll get 30% reduction. Blue will be 40% reduction, and a purple and a gold will be 50%. So pretty straightforward tips when it comes to the health. Let's go ahead and jump into the Apex Legends tip for where to land. So again, there was another loot table that I found over on Twitter, and here's a copy of what it kind of looked like. You can see that there's different areas that have high tier loot that are marked with purple. Blue is that mid tier loot, and that gray is that low tier. The only exception to this is wherever the hotspot is going to be. So if the hotspot happens to be in a blue area, it's all irrelevant. It's always going to be that high tier loot in those hotspot zones. I think this is probably one of the best pieces of information in the entire video, and that you'll find when it comes to Apex Legends, because currently not a lot of people know about this. So you can go ahead and land at these hot drop areas. If you want to go ahead and get in multiple engagements, probably take out the best players in the lobby at that point. But if you want to guarantee that you're going to get high tier loot, you can go ahead and get practice at dropping at these different areas. Also keep in mind that as players become more and more knowledgeable, they're going to start landing at these high tier loot locations, so it's going to get a little bit more competitive over time. So that's just something to keep in mind the longer the game is available. One thing I will point out is because when you are on the main HUD, there's these little blue circles that kind of pop up all over the map at random times. These are special loot locations. You're going to want to head to these, kind of peek them out, making sure there's no other enemies looking at them, because they will have high tier loot. And this is more than likely where you're going to find that 50 cal sniper or that special shotgun. So the next Apex Legends tip is going to be all around the golden items. I know I've already talked a little bit about the golden helmet, the golden chest piece, the golden weapons, but I did want to talk a little bit more in depth on what they actually do for you if you have them equipped. Unfortunately, in my playtime, I haven't really run into all the gold attachments, but the main one I did run into is the optic, which will allow you to see enemy players, and they'll kind of light up within the actual optic. So if someone is in smoke, you'll be able to see them regardless if it's your friendly smoke or the enemy smoke. You'll be able to see them through the smoke and be able to land those shots. So it can be incredibly powerful, especially late game. So if you ran into the other attachments, go ahead and comment down below what each of those do if you've had a chance to read those descriptions. Now let's go ahead and jump into the chest armor. And the chest armor is highly situational, but it can be very effective. If you take any damage to your armor and you go ahead and do a finishing move on anyone you've downed, it will automatically repair that armor 100%. So you'll go from 25 armor all the way up to 100 armor. So it'll be a perfect scenario if you want to go ahead and regain that armor. So that's a special ability with the chest. If you're lucky enough to find that gold backpack, it'll actually allow you to heal yourself faster as well as repair your shields that much faster. And if you're lucky enough to find that knockdown shield that is gold, you'll be able to perform a self-revive, which can come in very handy if you're in a very tight spot. Maybe you want to pinch the enemy, they think you're down, they're going to leave you alone, and then you can actually flank them. while your teammate's pressing from the other side. It's very situational, but it can come in clutch if the timing is right. So the next set of Apex Legends tips revolves around the battle mechanics. So we're going to talk about a few different things here, but these are a lot easier to talk about and we're going to kind of breeze through them pretty quickly. And my number one tip in this particular area is to ping everything. Obviously you can ping armor, weapons, ammo, attachments. The number one thing you can ping is enemies. And this becomes especially important if you cannot communicate with the other players on your team. You could just ping things. If you need to go to your inventory, you need ammo for your gun, just highlight over your gun and ping the weapon and it'll tell you, hey, I need more ammo. So definitely one of the best uses of a ping system that I've ever seen in a video game. So one of the things that this game does with their weapons that a lot of games have kind of jumped on the bandwagon with is to have predictive recoil. That means every time you fire your weapon, it goes through the same exact recoil pattern. And this is especially good for players that invest the time at the game because they can learn these recoil patterns. If you want additional help on how to learn them, all you really need to do is go into the tutorial mode, pick up a weapon, fire it on a particular target, and see what the weapon does. After a few targets, you're going to see that it does the exact same pattern, and you'll know that weapon's particular predictive recoil. One of the nice things about predictive recoil is you can actually trick the system into making sure it reloops the particular pattern that you want. So if you're just firing your weapon, you're going to see the recoil pattern emerge, but let's say it gets wobbly after about 15 shots. All you have to do is that right at that 15 shot mark, release the trigger really quickly, re-pull the trigger, and it'll reset that dynamic that you have control over. This is a great way to make it look like you don't actually have recoil on weapons that should. So one thing to be aware of is that bullets can actually penetrate from one enemy to another. So if they're stacked up in front of each other, you are firing the one in the front, it will damage the one in the back. So it's just something to be aware of. Nothing special because you don't really have control if your enemies line up. But it's just something to be aware of. You see a bunch of hit markers come up and you're not sure who you hit, you probably hit both of them. The other cool mechanic is that you are able to revive teammates once they've gone down, but once they've completely died, you got to go ahead and grab their banner, take it to a respawn location. In case one of your teammates happens to fall off the map, their banner will magically appear on land where you can grab it and take it to a respawn location. Not always going to be in the ideal location, but it will be available for you to pick up. Something that's particularly important when it comes to the battle mechanics, especially in this game since teamwork is almost forced for that win, is that you should maintain a sight line with all of your teammates. So overall, that'll allow you to venture very far away from your team, but as long as they're still able to see you, at least they can actually help you out. If you're like, hey, I need help, I'm getting shot at right over here, you ping them, and then all of a sudden your teammates start shooting that general area, that might scare off those enemies a little bit and at least give you a chance, because if that line of sight is broken, odds are you'll get downed rather quickly and force your team into a 2v3 situation. Another battle mechanic tip is to not let your specialist abilities go to waste. And this part comes with experience, but you'd hate to die with an opportunity to have used your specialist ability and allowed your team to actually overcome those obstacles and win those engagements. So the next thing I'll talk about when it comes to Apex Legends tips is zone management. So in this particular battle royale, the zone is not very strong. So if you get caught in the storm, you're going to be able to recover, get to those little balloons that will shoot you across the map. So I would highly encourage practicing landing at certain locations, regardless if it's not exactly on the flight path, because you want to get better at understanding where all the loot is in a specific area, especially if you're going to use that loot map that I showed earlier in this video. Something else to keep in mind when it comes to the zones is the pacing of this game is a little bit different than some of the other battle royales out there, or at least from my experience, because when that first zone starts collapsing, you really only have about 10 to 13 teams left, so a third of the teams are already gone. Then when you get to that second zone starts collapsing, it's like 4 to 6 teams and like 2 to 4 teams for that third zone. So by the time you get to that fourth zone, it's really going to be a one squad versus one squad scenario, and typically that's not going to happen. If you played aggressively, smart enough to navigate around the map the right way, you should be able to find yourself getting into those engagements, because for whatever reason, camping is not rewarded in this game. Hope you found the content helpful or enjoyed it in some way. If you did, please remember to hit that like button. Let's see if we can get this video over 500 likes. I know there's probably gonna be a few more dislikes than normal because this is not my typical Call of Duty video, so hopefully you can help me out on the like end if you did enjoy the video in any way. If you are brand new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe. Let me know down in the comment section if you'd like to see more content like this on the channel, because at the end of the day, my overall goal when I made my YouTube channel was to help other players improve. Do appreciate all the support on the channel. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.